Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Saza Jirde, and today's guest is Sunil Bhaskaran. He helps business owners get their next 1,000-member audience, and he's been a mentor for business owners since 1991. Sunil has a meetup organization of 27,000 members here in the Bay Area of Northern California. Sunil, welcome to the show. This is a very impressive figure, and I understand your meetup is growing by 800 new members per month.
Yes. Well, thank you, and thank you for having me here. And it's growing by about 800 members conservatively about every month, and they're mostly business professionals and business owners and people who want to get started in business. So it's pretty exciting for us.
Definitely. Now, tell me, who do you help? We talk business owners, but can you be a bit more precise?
Well, they're usually business owners who've been in business for a while, and they may have tried some other kinds of business marketing tactics, strategies in the past, and they want to really get to the next level, at least to the next 1,000 member audience. And we do that, in a variety of ways, but primarily they're business owners who've had some experience in the world. We do work with some new business owners, but we're looking for people who recognize that, it's not going to be an overnight thing. A lot of people want immediate results, in the next 5 seconds, overnight or next week. We probably won't be able to work with those people, but certainly people who are looking, over the next 6 months to the next 1 year in getting a solid audience build. For a lot of businesses, even getting to 1,000 over a couple of months can be more solid, because if you get the right people coming in, they can feed a business for quite a while. And so, we work with realtors, we work with financial planning businesses, attorneys, with people who are coaches and healers, anyone with a decent budget of $1,000 to $1,500 per month for their marketing. They want to see those marketing dollars go somewhere worthwhile. Then we offer I would say a very good return on investment for that money.
Good. Yeah, that's very important, that the money doesn't just disappear and that there is no there's no return, for sure. And right. It's a concern for every business owner. So tell me, what problems do you solve for them? How do you help them?
Well, I think the landscape of marketing has become very competitive on some of the common platforms like Facebook and even LinkedIn. It's very difficult to stand out. So one of the things we do is, first of all, we help people strategically stand out in the market. And then tactically, what we look at is helping find a platform like MeetUp, for example, where there's less competition and more growth, and they can really find their targeted niche without having to compete with other people in their space or their field of specialty. So they're a coach, for example. It's tough to market on Facebook because there's so many coaches out there.
Yes.
And the other problem is that Facebook is not necessarily very friendly to Google. I mean, Google doesn't, and vice versa. Google doesn't really promote your posts on Facebook very well. You can only promote your Facebook advertising to people on Facebook, which kind of limits you in quite a way, and it increases your marketing costs because it costs more to acquire someone on Facebook who has money to pay for your services, etc. So, to reach someone, an engineer, for example, who can, or someone who owns a business, a startup here in the Bay Area, It could be pretty expensive to acquire a customer like that through those regular means. However, if you do it through Meetup and some of the other platforms we use, there's far less competition. Your cost for acquisition goes down. You can stand out a lot better from everybody, and this is the advantage that we found in Meetup. So Meetup has two distinct advantages. One is that obviously you can build a direct audience directly by acquiring a physical audience to come and see your events or attend your events. And that's what Meetup's designed for. However, there's a side, even bigger benefit that most people are not aware of, which is the fact that when you, Google really loves Meetup. And when you post stuff on your Meetup or your organization or your Meetup groups that you organize, then you're more likely to be found online. So it boosts your presence online because Google starts seeing a lot of content being put on your Meetup. And if you're a coach, your name gets, you could say, it's a technical term, but it gets indexed with the word coaching more so. So when people search for coaching, for example, in your area, they're more likely to actually find you because your Meetup has propelled you over and above your competition.
Interesting. So this is a really opportunity to get added exposure.
Correct. At a much lesser price and with more effectiveness. Because if you only think inside the box, then you're looking at, and I certainly don't mean any criticism for people who are doing Facebook ads. It may help, but if you want to lower your costs over time and build a more sustainable marketing engine that gives you an audience, then you may have to look outside of that. And then the other mechanism we use is to create content on your site. We either do the work for you or we help you do it. Most of the time, we do the work for people, so we essentially take over the marketing functions with the intention of building that audience for you, both online as well as offline. And then the third area is we help people build that tribe over time. And sometimes the platform we use is in helping people create a forum where, so instead of having to rely on Meetup or any other group, you can actually create your own platform or your own forum where people come to you, and now you're independent of any other organization, and you can grow your own group and your own audience, without having to resort to any other expenses.
And that's interesting. Yes, you're independent, and the fact that you can do marketing work for your clients, it means that if they don't have time or the skills required to do this, you can help them with that. Absolutely.
For many people, it's not just the time, which could be about as much as 10 to 20 hours in marketing that they know they should be doing. We're taking that away from them. Some people it may be less, but it's really more of the brain bandwidth, because every time you try to do your work on your marketing and then you switch a task or a project to something that's very different, like if you're a coach or a financial planner, it's tough to move between the marketing world and doing a financial planning. So when we take that time or energy away from you, your brain is not completely focused on what you love to do and where your best comparative advantage would lie. So comparative advantage is where you make the most bang for your time and the energy and your passion.
Yes.
Yeah, then it's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is important to stay in your zone of genius instead of trying to be a jack of all trades.
Absolutely. I'm glad I met my business partner, who's one of the top content marketing experts in the world, and he's a writing expert as well. He's got a PhD in creative writing and a master's degree as well. And he's amassed a group of very highly specialized, very good writers all over the world, and he knows how to manage them. And please don't be offended if you're a writer, but writers, like a lot of artists, tend to be like artists. you have to manage them right and make sure that they generate the right kind of content. But we've got a pretty good engine for generating really good sound quality content consistently that can attract the right kind of audience to come to you on your website by writing good articles. That's the way the internet was designed to match good content with people who are searching for it. So if we can position someone like you or your audience members here who have businesses with content online that can be found by clients that they really like to get connected to, then that's the way it really should work. So instead of trying to game the system or pay for advertising, we try to get good content that's sustainable, that can last a long time on your site to attract the right people. And then if you couple it with another platform or two like MeetUp, then you've got what we call a tornado effect, because all these platforms and content start working together to build an outstanding profile for yourself online. And, you can stand apart from your competition much better that way. It's a better process of getting you to be found online much better than your competition.
Now, that's a very interesting strategy, one that is not so known.
Correct.
Today.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
What are there any misconceptions or about MeetUp and about your service that you find you have to go against?
Well, I think the primary misconception is something I mentioned earlier, which is most people only think in terms of the direct audience that they can get through MeetUp. In other words, they post an event on MeetUp. So MeetUp, just to backtrack a little bit, it's a website or a platform where you can post your own events and your groups, and you can reach out to people, and MeetUp helps you reach out to people to fill your events. And the basic premise of MeetUp is that it's community-oriented, and you have to do face-to-face events, no webinars, etc. So having said all that, it's designed for that, and it's very good design, and it works fairly well, but, that's not really where you'll get your real return on investment. For us, what we found is that MeetUp gives you a leg up in content that you can post, and it also becomes an automatic way of generating content without you having to do all the work, because every time someone comes to join your group or they RSVP for an event, it counts as content. And every time it counts as content, what Google likes to do is it sees, oh, wow, there's a lot of content coming on here that's posted by people outside of, the organizer. And that's really good. It shows that there's some good content being relevant content here. People are interested in it. Ooh, let me go there and check out what else is going on Zaza's MeetUp. Oh, Zaza is doing this and she's doing that. And she's got 15 people RSVPing, and 2 people commented how great the MeetUp was. Ooh, that counts as good content, not just for the MeetUp, but for Zaza herself. So Zaza is associated with all that content being put up. And if Zaza has another website that's all about marketing, Google is smart enough to go, hey, there's a connection between this website that Zaza's probably her business, and with Zaza the name, as well as this MeetUp with all these people who are coming on. So have a buzz and excitement for these Google search engine, they call them bots, or search bots. They get really excited. They're not really intelligent, entities. They're basically software robots that go searching through the internet for content. So you get excitement that way. And so if you did a search for Bay Area business networking events or even networking events or networking groups, you'll find that my MeetUp comes right on the first page, usually at the top, sometimes within the first top 3. And you see, it's not even that Google just posts my MeetUp there. It also lists out independently all my upcoming events right underneath that. So we actually get found on on Google a lot more. About 20% of our leads, and I should say very good leads, are coming through Google right now because MeetUp has pushed our profile past a lot of our competition.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah, from what you're saying, I understand also that we're talking quality audience. We're talking
correct.
Qualifying your potential clients differently through MeetUp.
That's correct. Because if you get the direct audience, you may not get a lot of qualified people because sometimes they tend to be younger folk. It just depends on your target markets, which you by the way you can also define on MeetUp, so you can actually reach and you can target a lot of great people using your MeetUp account. But the real main benefit for us is that we're being found by people outside the Bay Area, as far as Paris, France. We've been approached by people in Paris, France, in Singapore, and other organizations who look at us. They're searching for connections, for example, in Silicon Valley, which is where the Bay Area is. And so when they search, they find our MeetUp and they go, oh, wow, these people are having connections with small business people and startup and tech people there. Oh, that's very interesting. We could connect with them. And so we get found by people like that a lot through our Google search. And that's the real power. See, you can find much larger joint venture partners over time if you do it right. And if you position your content marketing right, on your website as well as on your MeetUp, then, what you're doing is what I call upward pressure. You're building a pressure for Google to bring you more and more present with people who are doing those kinds of searches. So there's a greater chance that you'll be found.
You'll be found. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very, very, very exciting when that starts happening. I remember when that happened, it started, we have a term, Bill and I, we call it the Google sandbox. It takes a couple of months. If you do the work consistently, you're posting right. Then at some point, literally, when we track it, we've tracked it for several of our clients, it'll go around. It's not looking like it's doing very well. It's ramping up a little bit. And then suddenly about the 6 month to the 8 month mark, we see a rapid rise. And that's when Google acknowledges that you're not trying to game the system, that you're legitimately trying to create good content, and it rewards you in droves because it likes good content that's verified, that shows that you're consistent, that you're working the system the way it's supposed to be worked, and not trying to game the system,
Yes.
So it's important to approach it with that degree of integrity and patience. And if you have that, which I'm sure a lot of people do, have that integrity and patience, then the rewards are great.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And are there any pitfalls that your potential clients might not be aware of?
Well, yeah, one is expecting too much too soon, because there is a build to it. And so, if you give up too soon in your MeetUp, so what happens to a lot of people, they give up too soon or they don't realize the bigger game that's going on in the background with Google. So if you give up too soon, then you really left a lot of money on the table. It only costs about less than $90 US dollars at least for every 6 months to have a MeetUp account where you can have 3 groups. So that's one pitfall. Actually, probably the biggest pitfall is when you have too high expectations, but then, you don't think longer term. You're building something rather than trying to get an immediate skyrocketing engine. It's not going to be an overnight engine, but once you get the engine, it is sustainable. The other thing is when you don't think through the policies of MeetUp, if you're doing a MeetUp strategy, because MeetUp has strict guidelines on what you can do. Now dating agencies who are trying to use MeetUp. It's a little bit more difficult, but there are more creative but high integrity ways to continue having a presence on MeetUp. You just can't really use MeetUp directly as a means to access single people or dating, as an example. You also have to do live events. Now, within their policies, and we've worked pretty closely with MeetUp and the people who work for MeetUp, so we understand their policies pretty well. You want to, MeetUp was designed to create community and to create community that's face to face. So, you don't want to do webinars. You don't want to misuse it, and they currently don't like dating agencies, etc. But, or I should say more accurately, they don't like it when you're outwardly trying to get singles to come to your events and, do that kind of stuff. But if you can have other kinds of social activities and still build a very good community that way. So, that's the other pitfall, is that people think that you can just, willy-nilly just start a meetup and not consider the policies, etc. You have to consider the policies and understand how to do all that. And that's where we come into play as well, because we understand that pretty well. We can help you position a meetup so you get approved and, things work a lot better. But eventually, the other thing is, you don't want to, this is a pitfall I think a lot of people fall into, regardless of my system, but they tend to think only in terms of direct audience build. Like, how can I reach the people and then invite them directly to come to my event? And that's all great. I think that's a great way to approach it, and you should definitely try to do that as much as possible. But like I said, as it gets more competitive out there, you have to find better ways to reach out to people in a more sustainable way. And so we found when you do really good content coupled with a meetup strategy that's in line with the policies of meetup.com, then you've got a very good, powerful engine for the long term that can provide a lot of business for a long, long time for you. We look at our content in our meetup content kind of like soldiers. They're soldiers that keep working for you 24 hours, 7 days a week. You post a piece of content that's relevant. Over time, the soldiers start communicating with each other to get more efficient. And if you have cross-links from one article to another, it becomes even more interesting. Now you've got a very powerful army of soldiers. Forget my militaristic analogies, but, it works that way. And, what we've seen is our meetups but more so our forums and our online platforms that my business partner and I have created have become like assets for us. An asset is like a home that you have and you rent out. It brings a certain amount of income, and now has, and I think this is going to happen in the future, where some of your online, like your email databases, are going to be assets for you that you can literally pass on to your children because they're generating income for you. They have an intrinsic value. And so my business partner actually has another set of meetups that he's looking to sell to another group who's very interested in buying it. Why? Because we can show them numbers for what it's generating in terms of income and audience numbers. So, we want to look long term when you're building an asset, because you got to demonstrate income, you got to demonstrate how this mechanism works, get the mechanism of attracting people to be really stable for you. Everyone is different, every business is different, so it has to be approached in a different way. But if you understand your target markets and you understand what good content will be for your audience, then the combination of the meetup and content marketing is, I think, the best return on investment. We pretty much we practically don't spend much money at all on any kind of paid advertising. We've recently hired staff because, as we grew up to 23 meetups now, it's a little bit more commitment, but still far less than what most people spend on their marketing. And we're growing at quite a good rate. It's you have to think of it as an asset and understand the risks and the investment of time. It may not be for everyone, but what we offer is an initial session where we do our best to do the research with you, look and see and show you the case studies, and then indicate to you what we expect your results will look like for each month for the next 12 months. And
now that's interesting because some business owners, they may try to do marketing, a little bit on the cheap.
Yeah.
So how do they react to your service? Do some think that you're too expensive until you've shown them, what they can expect?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest with you, because at some point, the people who do work with us are a little bit more savvy. They've been around the block. They've tried different things, and they know that to really get to the next level, there are two things involved. I mean, you may have to invest more money into it and get more expertise that's going to give you a more mathematically and scientifically based kind of approach.
Yes.
And so like I said, our program's not for everybody who wants like a quick fix. It probably won't work. But if you've tried different things and you're seeing, wow, I got a very interesting business, but it's hard to explain. And you see, when it's hard to explain your business, you really have to develop good content. So, like a lot of healers, for example, coaches have businesses that are really outstanding. They provide really good service, but they like to find people who are more interested in what they do, so they don't have to convince people and work hard at, sometimes it takes 3 months to 6 months to get a client that's good enough,
Yes.
And with what we do, if you have good content on there, after a while, you don't really even have to explain. Well, I mean, you want to learn how to explain yourself for sure in terms of your business, but you don't have to work that hard because your content as a whole paints a pretty good picture of who you are. And
yeah, it works for you.
It works for you, and it paints that narrative for you. And so what we found is when you almost naturally relate your content that way, then it starts creating a narrative online. And so the keywords that show up in that narrative organically show up for you as well as you think of it, as you write more articles, or we help you create more articles. But the other thing is that people will also start seeing how to connect the dots for you. So if you're, for example, I hope you're not offended, but an esoteric kind of healer, and you do Ayurveda or some 5,000-year-old Hindu way of helping people through their marriage, it's difficult to explain and help you stand out. But if you do a sequence of articles, then people start noticing you more and more. So we work with people like that and help them position themselves well so that they get found. So we have a client in Australia who does puppy dog training. And she does it in a particular way, and it's really great. And she had a decent following, but she wasn't really making a lot of money out of it. And she wasn't really a very prolific writer. And for most people, it's kind of difficult to write articles. But we guided her. And today she's got a fantastic website that has articles on puppy dogs and dog training. She wrote eventually about 1,000 articles in about 6 months or so. You don't have to be very laborious. It can be done very, very efficiently, about 500 words or so each article, or even 250 words. And with the right keywords, et cetera, that we guided her to do, she got actually found by the Australian Post Service, who hired her to do a training because they found her blog, to do a training for their postmen to dangerous dogs and how to interact with dogs so they don't have to be in danger. So she got that gig out of creating that, but it would have been very difficult to explain what she did otherwise. So when you do content like that and you beef it up with other platforms, then now you don't have to compete with all the other bigger dog training facilities out there in Australia. You can start carving out your own space and niche online. And that's important, I say, for the vast quantities of people who are trying to come up now in their own niche, but finding it difficult to do because advertising is very expensive and very competitive and very difficult to do. So, I think our program helps in a good return on investment. But it is difficult to sell because most people want a quick result, and we can't do that. But if you have the patience and you have the budget to wait for a while, for a couple of months, then then we can promise you really good results.
When you offer your service, what is the timeline that you give?
Yeah.
Is it 3 months, 6 months, 1 year?
Well, it typically depends on the client, but we would say, you want to be patient for about 6 months at least. For some clients, it depends on their locality or where they want to market. So in Santa Cruz, for example, it's a pretty small market. We have about 50,000 people in the city and about 250,000 people in the county. That's a pretty small sample. But the advantage, it depends on, your competition. If you have, we only work with 2 realtors in the area because we want to make sure we do well for them. Going beyond 2 realtors will be too much. It will create too much competition for them. And that would extend the timeline for how we can help people. So it really depends on how much competition you have in the area and how big your sample is. If you're in a big city, like the Bay Area, we have about 15 million people. If you're a realtor in certain areas of San Jose, we're looking at about 6 months to 8 months, getting you to about 400 articles that will get you, we'll promise you business, a really good ideal client kind of business within, 6 months to 8 months. But
yeah, you have to build up that momentum.
You have to build up that momentum. That's why we offer the initial strategy session. It's $997 for 3 hours to sit down with us. If you're not happy with us for any reason, we will refund the money to you because we really believe in what we do. And within that 3 hours, we'll tell you a timeline for what to expect, how long it will take, how many months, what you can build to, based on your average pricing, how much money you could generate. We know our numbers fairly well. We just have to do a little bit of research to give you those numbers. But that 3-hour session is usually the entry point for most people. And then once they hear the numbers, we're pretty clear, who we can, whether we can work with you or not. Almost all the time we can. When there's a will and there's creativity, there's, and there's enough people in the markets that you're going after, then it's a very good chance that you can create some good business, and to do it right,
Yes.
So, yeah. So I think I answered your question. I want to make sure.
Yes, you did. You did, Sunil. And how is this paced? Because business owners, they're already very busy, and they have all these things to think about. How do you help them out there? Well,
if they have the budget for it, then we pretty much, what we like to do is get them engaged from time to time because there's an ideation. We call it ideation or brainstorming sessions, which business owners love. That's what business owners love to do, but they don't want to do the work. So we take all the work away from them if it's the program it's done for you, and that might engage like maybe 2 hours per month of their time in giving them updates and maybe asking questions and getting information. When it first starts, we may need a little bit more time with them because we may need more information that we are not aware of. And so that may be about 3 or 4 hours up front, and then about 2 hours additionally per month after that of engagement time. And then, obviously if you don't want it done for you, but you want us to work with you to guide you to do it, then it may take a little bit more time to do that. But if it's done for you, typically 2 hours a month should be sufficient.
Well, that's very good considering what the results that you're getting.
Yeah.
It's really an interesting deal. Now, Sunil, if the listener wants to know more, how can they connect with you?
Well, they can connect me directly by email. If they can email me directly at Sunil, which is SUNIL @chahayamind.com. And Chahaya is spelled a little funny, but it's spelled CAHAYAMIND.com. CAHAYAMIND.com. And my name is Sunil, SUNIL. So SUNIL @chahayamind.com and or kahayamind.com. Or they can call me directly on my phone here, 831-476-8608. And indicate your name and your phone number, and I'll be happy to, my staff or myself will connect with you and set up a time.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we can talk for a short while and get a fair idea, by email, get a fair idea of what you're looking at. We do a high touch service. My business partner and I are very old timers. We've been doing this. I've been doing this kind of business and helping businesses since 1991. So my style is to interact with you and help you as best as you can. It's not like, I'm stingy on time. But we want to make sure that your time is served very well as well. And, we'll do what we can to help you. So, so those are the 831-476-8608. That's a U.S.-based number. And my email, again, is Sunil, SUNIL, at kahayamind, CAHAYAMIND.com.
Wonderful, Sunil. Thank you so much for sharing all this very interesting information about MeetUp and how to get started and get going and be successful with this MeetUp and combined content strategy, which is very innovative.
Absolutely.
So I'm very glad that we were able to interview you today.
Oh, well, my pleasure. It's great to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.